Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Illinois Green Party. I'm your host, David Rich. We have AJ Reed on the show tonight. How are you, AJ?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Welcome back to the show. You were on here once before, were you?
Yeah, it was. It was myself, you, Toneel. I think it was the last time I was on was.
Okay, yeah, I think it's been a little while, but anyway, welcome back. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about you are a Green Party member, and from what I understand, a very active participant here at the local Illinois level, county level, Illinois level, federal level, and what I just found out is international level as well. Is that true?
Yeah, yes. I'm very busy in the Green Party.
That's very good. So why don't you just give us a brief history as to how you got involved in the Green Party in the first place?
Yeah. I joined the party around '07 after being very disgruntled with the Democrats. So a little bit. So I live Sterling, Illinois. It's the northwest corridor of the state, over by the Mississippi River,
Oh wow,
and
that's cool.
it is. So it's like about 90 minutes west of the suburbs of Chicago. And so we never had any third parties, no Greens, no Libertarians, anyone. So it was Dems, Republicans.
Sure.
So at the time, I thought I aligned myself more with Democrats because that's what I've gotten.
Yeah, sure.
Worked with them to the point of doing like events, candidate recruitment, things of that nature. Worked on campaigns. And when it was about the time that I suggested about running for state rep, my area is when they said, we're focusing on this one candidate named Obama, and we're putting all of our cards into that. And it's like, well, he's going to win. I mean, he's going to win Illinois. I mean,
Right.
I'm the only one active in the area beating the 12-year Republican incumbent who doesn't do anything. Well, this is where we put our time and investment in. So between that and several other things, I just got fed up. Was in Bloomington, Illinois, saw a brochure about the Green Party, and I always knew about the Green Party because I voted for Nader in 2000, and again in 04, and so I knew of the Green Party, but just that it was not the Illinois Green Party was never in my radar until this brochure came along in Bloomington, Illinois, and then I contacted the chair at the time. 2 days later, I got a response, and then I met up with someone up in Rockford, and here I am. And so that was 07, and been rocking ever since.
All right, very cool. Very cool. That's a while to be in here, actually. I just got involved a couple years ago. I was after a little stint in the Libertarian Party. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of liberty, but I just didn't find anybody in the party that could actually explain it well enough, and also they didn't seem to have enough of a concern about the environment.
Yeah.
Because it was merely about personal liberty. Like, okay, there's a little more going on than just that, guys. So quick skedaddle over to the Green Party, and here I am about a year and a half later. I'm very happy ever since day one. It's been great because of people such as yourself. So that's very cool. So as active as you are, did you start off in 2007? Feet on the ground kind of thing, or did you take a little while to warm up, or how did it go?
It did take a little while to warm up. I went to the first spring meeting, which was in Peoria, and that's when we started. We had several. So at the time when I joined, was when we had statewide ballot access at the time in Illinois. So when our gubernatorial candidate, Rich Whitney, ran in 06, got a little over 10%.
Nice.
And that gave us statewide party status. And so it means we had like this huge number of candidates running and everything, which means we had to play to state law when it comes to elections and everything, which means we need like a state central committee, things of that nature. And then we ran some folks for Congress, and we did this thing called slating. So slating is something where if we missed the petition deadline, there's this thing in the code book where you can slate candidates, but you need like a congressional. I won't get to the whole nuances of it, but essentially, you have a congressional committee, they approve it, they gets on the ballot essentially. That's just the watered down version of what I was telling you, but that's what we did. So that's I was on the 17th congressional committee. It's like, yeah, well, I'm for this person, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as it did that is when the Democrats started filing a lawsuit, and then I'm off to my first court case at the Thompson Center with the Illinois Democratic Party lawyer and with our attorneys, and really seeing how the team I did play for, the Democrats, are doing this to third parties, you know?
They're awful.
You know, and so I'm seeing
they're just yeah.
Right. Because I mean, I hear these things. I'm like, oh, this can't be true.
And only Republicans do that. Yeah, no, it's both parties are just pure evil.
Right. So seeing it firsthand, and this person, the attorney who asked me like these questions, like really fishing for information, goes, so where was state convention at? I said, oh, it was in Peoria. Where? Bradley University. Where? Student Center. Where? In the basement. Where? Lecture hall? What's called a lecture hall? It was whatever. He goes, how many people in the room? 100 people? Well, who was there? And I'm like, I go, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are you trying to do? I mean, other than trying to discredit my character at this point, you know? But from that moment forward, really invigorated me to like get involved in the party at the state level to see how we can kind of combat the Democrats if we can when it comes to our candidates and everything. And then, yeah, then getting into issues a little bit more. TIF districts, environmental issues, social justice issues, economic democracy issues. And so, yeah, I just been doing that and got elected into state office in the state party. They sent me as a delegate to the national committee ever since 08. I was even my first elected position was what was it called? The Whiteside County Green Party chair. When we had state party status, I was for 2 years. I was the county chair, representing the Green Party and everything. So that was my first elected position. Was that?
Nice. That's very cool. Impressive resume.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. No, and I just like to let everybody, think of it this way: party suppression is voter suppression.
It is.
Approximately 25% of the people who are eligible to vote in this country do not, in any sort of formal sense, identify with either the Democrats or the Republicans. And the sort of methods and processes that the Republicans and Democrats employ concerning during election times to squash third-party candidates getting even on the ballot is abhorrent. It's absolutely rude. It's immoral. It's unethical. It's unfair. But they control the game, and that's why they can do that kind of crap.
Right.
But just remember, party suppression is the same thing as voter suppression, and both parties do it. And voter suppression is not okay.
Right.
Not in a democracy. It's not supposed to be that way. Anyway. Okay, very cool. So I've been talking to Anna about this, like, hey, let's try to reach out to some people like globally. I mean, the Green Party is cool for many, many reasons, but one of them being is that it's an international party.
Yeah.
It's not just a national one. I mean, that's very cool. I have a vague memory of sending an email to some Green Party lady, I think in the Canadian Parliament. I'm not sure. Something like I just remember seeing her on like YouTube or something like that. I'm like, oh, cool. And I shot her an email, say, hey, do you want to come on the Illinois Green Party series? She never responded, but I'll just keep trying. So talk a bit about that. Unravel that for us, because that's really interesting to me.
So, as you said, the Green Party is the only party that's international.
Right.
So from Auckland, New Zealand to Oakland, California, the 10 key values, the 4 pillars are across the international stage. There's no Democratic Party anywhere else, Republican Party nowhere else, Libertarian Party nowhere else. We're it. Other than Socialist Party, Communist Party, we're it.
Right.
So that's like, a notch to us when it comes to a political party. And every time I go around the country talking about Green Party, I emphasize that. Like, we have more elected officials the Democrats, Republicans, on an international stage.
Right.
I mean, we have folks in parliaments in Europe, in Africa, South America, Asia. I mean, we can connect with Elizabeth May in Canada. We can talk with
Maybe that was it.
some of our friends in Denmark who are on city councils over there.
Yeah.
So we can make these kind of connections. So with that, to that end, the Green Party of the United States does have this international committee. And so what the international committee does is we appoint folks from different states and caucuses to be on the international committee, where we do deal with international issues. And that can range from the Ukraine-Russian situations happening right now to pipelines in Canada, what's going on in Haiti and Dominican Republic, with the embargo in Cuba. You get the point.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do, whether it's a statement or a press conference or networking with folks that we know, building coalitions with one another to figure out, what's the best solutions that the Green Party can provide that the other parties in the United States and the other nations cannot offer. And so, like, the other neat thing that we do is that we have like these regions, regional organizations. So for us, we have something called FPVA, and so the English version of FPVA is the Federation of Green Parties of the Americas. So it's the United States, Central America, and South America, along with the Caribbean. And we have delegates. I'm one of the delegates representing the Green Party of the United States, where we talk with our fellow Greens in the Americas and the Caribbean, and we essentially talk about that region, as well as being part of the global Greens, and how do we talk as regions to do all this stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So unfortunately, because of the pandemic,
right,
we couldn't go to Brazil.
Oh man,
it would have been nice.
Oh.
So it was a virtual, but I had like background of Brazil in the background.
No, yeah, that would have been very cool.
But no, but like for that annual meeting that we just had was when we got to talk with folks, and I will say, myself and our two other delegates, both of them are a little bit more fluent in Spanish than myself. I mean, I just know enough to understand what's going on,
Sure.
but I let my friend like Alex in Louisiana and Diana in California, I let them do the talking, if it were. And from what I can understand, it's like, oh, I think we need to talk about this stuff and everything.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah. So with the international committee, we have delegates like myself for FPVA, and then every 2 years there's something called the Global Green Congress, where Greens from around the world meet every 2 years. And I think this year is the Congress, and it's in Seoul, South Korea. Because when I joined in the Green Party, I think my first time hearing about this was it was in Senegal, Africa. So it's held everywhere where it can be, everything.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
It is. So yeah, for 1 week, we come together as International Greens to talk about what's going on in our representative nations. I like to think of ourselves as the better UN, where we are coming together and just.
Do we have any representation in the UN?
Not to my knowledge.
Really? No, not even on the IPC or anything like that?
No. So
IPCC, sorry.
We so even though we have elected Greens internationally, we don't have the kind of political leverage that we should. We have a lot of Greens elected. Most of our Greens are elected in Europe. In fact, I forget their name, but one of the Greens in Germany 2 different times gave Angela Merkel a run for her money for her seat, not as chancellor, but just for her seat in her what do they call it, district. So like they were like second behind Merkel. So we have Greens that do that. So yeah, we do. But the nice thing about places like Europe is that they can do a lot of coalition building within parliaments. So we have some Greens, some socialist parties, some liberal, not like the liberal we know in the United States, but a liberal in Europe.
Yes, by the way, folks, it means something different everywhere else in the world.
Have formed a lot of coalitions to advance issues or pass something in legislation. So we have that kind of leverage, but not in terms of, we have in the House of Commons in the UK where the Green Party can be boisterous and
right can scream their head off.
Wants to run for their money, but
yeah, I love watching Parliament. English Parliament is fun.
It is.
But they just get right to brass tacks, don't they? Okay, well that's interesting. Do you think that the Green Party, whether it be internationally or nationally here, needs more scientists in order to kind of give it a little more political gumption, or do you think that is not as like we have PhD of climate sciences Peter Schwartzman, who's the mayor of Galesburg, and we have him on the show all the time to talk about climate change. I mean, he has a PhD in climate sciences. He's like the guy. What do you think? Do you think that that's something that we should be striving to recruit? Like, hey guys, take your knowledge of climate change and join us because the fight's here.
Yeah, I think those with the advanced degrees and the advanced training need to be involved. That's just my brief answer, and I guess the longer answer is it sometimes can be a hard sell for some scientists to get involved politically because they want to the objective because they're scientists, right? And as someone who also has advanced degrees, I understand and appreciate that. But as someone who categorizes themselves as an organizer scholar, in other words, my organizing informs my scholarship because I'm on the ground working with tenants, and I can go to a conference on housing and talk about this is why gentrification doesn't work. This is why TIF districts are ruining parts of Chicago. This is why, because I'm on the ground working with tenants, seeing what's happening firsthand, writing papers, academic papers, going to academic conferences, and presenting that information to folks, So scientists need to be doing the same thing. Yes, do the scientist thing, do the academic papers, go to the conferences, do all that. But let's just be honest ourselves, politics does inform where your stances are. It really does.
Oh, well, it certainly should. Politics means policy. It means policy making. I mean, okay, yeah.
Well, exactly. Right. We have scientists and even some educators who just don't think that's a thing. And I go, but it is. So, right. So yeah, we do need a little bit more PhDs, MDs to join because we kind of need that kind of knowledge and shared information in order to put forward the best policy papers forward. So it doesn't look like, well, how can I say this? It's great that all of us activists and organizers do all this work and write papers and everything. But let's just be honest with ourselves. Because of the cultural dominance that we have in society, the words PhD has a little bit more weight.
Oh, 100%.
So Margaret Flowers,
it should,
who's part of the Maryland Green Party, who's worked with Popular Resistance, is known in the activism community, but she's an MD.
Right.
So, and she does that, I've seen her speak publicly. She goes, I am Margaret Flowers. But when she's in a room that she knows is full of intellectuals, she goes, I am Dr. Margaret Flowers. Right. And they go, oh, okay. Right. So we got to play that game. We just got to. You know,
If you have a D after in your title after your name, then whether it be JD, MD, PhD, you deserve respect. I mean, that's a very long, arduous, and difficult path to take for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and they're by definition the experts of the experts. So yeah, that's very cool. All right, so okay, that was international. Very exciting. You need to keep us updated on like once pandemic wanes away, then you start going around the world again. That'd be cool.
No, that yeah. Yeah, we're kind of hoping that's going to happen here soon. In fact, one of my fellow delegates on the international committee, Ahmed out in New Jersey, sometimes we'll send delegation teams to countries. So there's one coming up for Colombia
That's so
to just observe their elections.
cool.
Because he just did one last year for Venezuela. So he asked me, he goes, "Do you want to go to Colombia?" And I go, "Date and time."
Yeah, I mean, sure.
So I mean, so that's in the works. I mean, we don't know what's going to pan out, but there might be a team of us that might be going to Colombia to observe their elections and provide a report out as to what we observed.
That's intense, man. That's very cool. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about the national level. What's going on with the Green Party on the national level?
Oh,
and your specific involvement thereof.
So this go around on the national committee. So I've been on the national committees again since 2008. So I've been very active on the national committee through other committees. Just to highlight, I've co-chaired a couple of other committees: Ballot Access Committee, Presidential Campaign Support Committee. Jump-started our campaign coordinating committee, which somewhat think of it as a DCCC for the Greens, but what we kind of do is like help folks provide information on what does candidate recruitment look like, how do we train candidates, how do we talk to media, things of that nature. So that's a campaign coordinating committee through education and training. And I'm also one of the co-founders for the Youth Caucus. We started that in 2012. So it's been over a decade this year. So that started a decade ago with that.
The Youth Caucus, is that different than the Young Socialists?
Same one.
It is the same one. Okay.
Same one. We used to call the Youth Caucus now they're called the Young Eco Socialists. So they evolved it. So they evolved it to what it is now.
Yeah.
So that's my activity level. So right now my activity level is pretty much around platform committee and international committee and everything. I still vote on the national committee when proposals are put forward and everything. Our annual national meeting is coming up here soon. I forget the dates, but I want to say it's around June. And unfortunately, this is going to be the third year in a row that's going to be virtual. But that was more of a committee's decision than the national committee's decision, which I respect. Even though I want to see folks, but I respect what the annual national meetings committee wants to do and everything. And so that's our time when we do workshops, panels. We'll have a lot of candidates doing their stump speeches at that time. We'll elect new steering committee members. New steering committee members at the time. So our steering committee is not quite our executive committee. They just kind of steer certain executive duties within the national party, but because we're a decentralized organization, they're still autonomous from the other entities within the national committee of that.
Can you explain the logistics of our decentralization?
Yes. So a lot of folks kind of do this when you hear decentralization. It's like, what do you mean by this? So unlike centralization.
No, I know what decentralization means. What does it look like in the Green Party?
So in the Green Party, so it's not quite the hierarchy where you may have like a board, committees and do the whole hierarchy tree, if it were. So we still have a steering committee
Mhm.
of co-chair, secretary, and treasurer. So they kind of handle, again, the operations end of the national party, paying any rent we may have for an office, paying staff, making sure proposals are put forward before the national committee and everything. Maybe possibly handle conflict issues within the national committee and what have you. So that's what their role is, you know. And so the other committees just kind of like the international committee, we just do our thing and we put forward proposals to the national committee. We'll send it to, we'll send it to the national committee by way of the steering committee so it can be in the queue for a vote and everything. You know, so there's autonomy yet interdependence among the committees in order for proposals to go through and delegates like myself on the national committee to vote on it and everything.
Is there some sort of like specific area within the Green Party that decides on, like, somebody had to come up with the 10 platform positions and the 4 pillars? Like, I'm assuming that started probably towards the inception of the party itself, right? Okay.
Yeah, so beginning when Howie Hawkins, Mike Feinstein, and others did this back in the mid 80s. That's when they kind of put forward 4 pillars and 10 key values, which came out of really the Green movement in Europe and in Germany in the 70s. You know, so they're the first ones who put the four pillars out there as well as the 10 key values. And then that came away with, again, with Howie, Mike, and others to adopt that and saying we're doing the same thing. You know, so what we uphold is the same thing that's been upheld by German Greens since the 70s.
Right, and that's very good. That's a huge, like you said, testament to like the consistency of the party and the actual the size of it, the population of the participants in the party globally. It's a movement as well as a political party, and it's a shame that it doesn't get as much attention in this country as it should. But that's why we're here, is to get this message out there so people know that they actually have an alternative and a really good one. Because just remember, folks, voting for the lesser of 2 evils is still voting for evil.
That's right.
Okay, so you don't have to settle for that.
Right.
You just don't. A lot of people are like, we have no choice. Yes, you do. Other parties are on the ballot. Yes, you do. Don't tell me you don't have a choice. You do. Okay. So things are going okay on the national level then, right? We're all going along. Everybody's happy.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah. It's there. I can.
It's still there.
For those who don't want to be bored with details, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, start talking like in minutes of a meeting or something like that, we might lose some people.
Right.
But that's okay. Okay, cool. Do we? So we have a presidential election coming up. We'll start campaigning next year.
Yeah.
Anything interesting on that front? Or way too
I'm
early?
not running for president, if that's the question you're asking.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask it in a more general sense, but okay.
Yes. I have no desire to do that.
Wouldn't that be? That seems like it would be kind of a drag. I'm not going to lie to you. I remember Obama said it's like a nice, luxurious prison. He literally said that. I mean, that's a bit of a paraphrase, but the word prison is not.
Right.
He's like, you have all the best of the best, everything. He's like, but you can't do anything. He's like, it's just kind of. He's like, it's not great. Like, okay.
Yeah. So there are. I have not heard any rumblings as to who's putting their name forward right now, or even developing an exploratory campaign at this point. I mean, I have my hopes. One of which is Howie Hawkins to run again.
You think? Okay.
I mean, that's my hope that he will consider running. I don't know about Jill Stein. I know Jill.
I keep seeing her name like here and there. I mean, I do a lot of like researching online. I very infrequently stop to read about it, not for any particular reason other than I'm probably looking for something else at the time. But I keep seeing her name over and over. Is she doing something right now? Do you know?
So the only thing right now that when she ran last time,
Mhm.
2018, is when she right now is going through still lawsuits with
Oh,
the
okay.
Federal Election Commission and everything, because this one had to do with she wanted recounts in like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania for votes, and somehow the FEC is still trying to file fines on her
Good Lord.
for stuff. And
Probably another Democratic Republican plot.
well, that's the thing. And so, and
tie him up in court.
right. So it's like, I know that it had to do with one particular thing, but I just heard recently it's because of like lawsuit number 10 by the FEC. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, I'm now lost as to what's going on here. But
The FCC.
oh, yeah. I mean, I don't foresee Jill running anytime soon. And other than those two, I don't know who else really.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we will
thinking
see.
about it. Yeah, we'll see.
We will see.
And
Howie Hawkins and Anna Schiefelbein for as the vice president. What do you think? What do you think, Anna?
yeah,
Want to be vice president? I think she's typing a response. All right, that's very cool. Like, we'll see what happens. We got this year to deal with first, and then next year will come when it does. So okay. Did you hear about the recent IPCC statement about it's not over yet, but if countries don't stop lying and start doing what they're going to do, like it came out like yesterday or something like that. Like it was super recent. Okay, so I was just curious if you heard that. They basically said that like the doomsdaying of it all is not appropriate because there is still a chance. However, governments are not doing what they said that they are going to do. They are in fact lying to us. So if they don't start doing that, then it's over. So okay. Anyway, so Albert Schall, I think Schaal. Albert, correct me phonetically if you want to. Are there any candidates running for Illinois governor or any endorsements towards a candidate?
Oh wow. So right now in Illinois, we do not have a gubernatorial candidate, and we have not sought one out either, and that's only because more of a capacity issue for us, and by capacity issue, so we do have a number of folks in the state party, but what some people don't know about the back end of things is that it takes a lot of time and money to get petitioners to it because it's a statewide thing, and we need 20,000 signatures in the state of Illinois, which means we need really 40,000 signatures for insurance if it were.
Right.
So for folks don't know, when you file your petition in Springfield, call this a fortunate thing or not, but this one glimmer of democracy, if it were, is where someone can come in and petitions and review your petitions, and they can actually say, oh, this is a bad signature. Oh, this is bad. This is what happened to me back when I first joined. This is my first foray of, oh, this is hitting below the belt.
Yeah.
And so this happens. I mean, I've been in Springfield enough times where I've seen Dems and Republicans just sitting there like vultures. And as soon as a candidate puts their petitions in, is then they get the copy, and then they'll take it away and start doing their thing. So all that to say is that because there's that kind of capacity issue, is that we haven't sought out someone to run for governor in Illinois. If someone comes to our spring meeting that's coming up here very soon and says, I'm going to run for governor, we'll hear them out and we'll see what happens from there. But as of right now, we don't have a gubernatorial candidate. And And then Albert's second question, or any endorsement towards a candidate, and I'm hoping you're saying green candidates. I would say like
I'm
Neil
assuming.
Jackson with the Metro Water Reclamation District. Anna, who you're not seeing here, who's running for state rep. I would something that's someone.
I'm reading it as, if there aren't anybody running for gubernatorial race, do you endorse anybody that should? That's how I'm reading it.
Well, then if that's the case, then no comment.
Okay. It's too early to tell. Okay, so yeah, show up to the spring meeting, and if you want to run for governor, raise your hand and tell them why.
Yeah.
So that there you go. All right. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Got about 19, 20 minutes left here. We went international. We went national. We went. Is there any more local stuff you want to discuss? So I want to talk about the Lavender Caucus.
I can talk about local stuff, but my local stuff is more rural stuff.
So I think we need to hear that too, because I think most of us kind of exist around cities and suburbs.
So if I can have a moment more, as I usually
you may have several moments more.
How I usually debate with my conservative friends, I'm like, a moment more, please. So yeah, my local work is rural, and this is where I kind of get on my soapbox in the state party, where I don't feel a lot of folks in Illinois truly appreciate outside of Cook County and the surrounding counties of Cook County, out here in the hinterland where I live, because you think stuff in Chicago are bad.
Yes.
Let me take you to Stevenson County, just north of me, where I feel is much worse than Cook County half the time.
Concerning what? Specifically concerning what?
So Cook County or Stevenson County is primarily a Republican county, and they do a lot of kind of nepotism stuff that you would see in Chicago, as well as voter suppression stuff, as well as things that and I'm specifically thinking about the Stevenson County Board right now, where they feel certain funds should be going elsewhere than helping people out and everything. So there's like that. Or I can take it to Rock Island, or Moline, Illinois, where I'm currently fighting the Moline Township, of Moline, of not even hearing out our petitions that we submitted for advisory referendums. Like they're outright saying, we're not doing this.
Does anybody understand what a democracy is?
So, so there's that stuff, along with issues that rural folks are really being attuned with outside of agriculture, population loss, housing, education, public education. In fact, there was a meeting last week, Tuesday, of this conservative movement held a meeting in my town because of the lack of conservative education and values in education. So they want to start up these private schools that kids can go to because of critical race theories happening and everything, because LGBT we talked about and everything.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Is critical race theory being taught in grade schools? I mean, that's part of the throwback. This is like a law school graduate doctorate level theory. Okay. So anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, so again, I can do a whole show with you just on real issues, but this is just a snapshot.
Yeah, do a snapshot and we'll have you back on it because I think that would be very cool to see for sure.
Yeah, because this is just a snapshot of what people don't take in consideration when it comes out this way. Because don't get me wrong, I like going to Aurora, Naperville, Chicago, Bloomington, Normal. I do, but it'd be great if Greens in our own state would just come and see what we have to deal with. Because like where I live right now, where I'm situated, 15 minutes down the street from me is Reagan's boyhood home and where he was born.
Wait a minute, you're that far south?
I'm that far west of you.
Or west of me?
Yeah.
Oh, you're west of me. I thought he was born in southern Illinois.
No. He was born in Tampico, Illinois, and was raised in Dixon, Illinois.
My mistake.
He went to Eureka College in Peoria,
Maybe that's what it is. Okay.
and then he left for Hollywood.
Yeah, and then became a president and kept acting.
Right. So that's where I live. And in fact, this is a side note, and I think it's funny. So his boyhood home was a museum, and it was actually losing funding. And so Scott Walker's think tank bought it, and now it's becoming this thing where it's Reagan's boyhood home, but now Scott Walker's Young American Foundation, I think that's what it's called, is running the show. So Scott Walker,
Young American Foundation.
I think it's called the Young American Foundation. I know it's Young American something.
Sounds like Nazi
It's the
youth.
same organization that Ben Shapiro gets money from.
Oh, you're just grossing me out here, man. Scott Walker is just, I don't know where his problem is, man. Ben Shapiro's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not even going to bother with him.
So yeah, I mean, this is where I'm at, and I serve on. I mean, out here I'm on University of Illinois Extension Board, which covers 3 counties: Carroll, Whiteside, and Lee County. I serve on.
Got one of these up here by me. The U of I Extension. Yeah.
There you go. I also serve on what's called the Whiteside County Healthiers Community Partnership, which is just a coalition of social service agencies, education, business leaders, faith leaders, and we all come together to figure out how to make our county healthy, not just physically healthy, but intellectually healthy, emotionally healthy. And we try to develop programs to help youth, the aging population, and a whole slew of things. Because I served on their homeless and immigration task force with them and everything. So like these are the things that we have to deal with when it comes to like real issues.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Immigration task force, really, that's got to be intense and sad all at the same time.
It is, and because where I live is like in my town, it's 40% Hispanic.
Okay.
We're like one of the largest counties out this way. It has a large Hispanic Latinx community out here, to the point where 4 years ago is when myself and someone else figured out that like 100 people were missing because ICE just came through and just took them away.
That's so crazy.
Because of that, like my friend Rebecca, who's the executive director for the YWCA here, working with her through this task force to get the YWCA to become like I believe it's called an Immigration Welcome Center, which is a federal thing you have to do, where if you're an immigrant and you come to Sterling, then you go to the YWCA, you can get your green card application, you can get your social security application, help you through Espanol education, Espanol, excuse me, ESL education, English as a second language, all that good stuff. So like those are the kind of things that we also focus on or try to focus on, like in the task force.
Wow, very cool. All right, well, good for you. That's awesome. All right, let's talk about the Lavender Caucus. Well, actually, let's start with caucuses in the Green Party in general. Yeah. Established parties tend to have caucuses. I don't know of any that don't. Maybe like a super small third party, like the Constitutional Party or something like that. I don't know. I'm merely just speculating, spitballing. Yeah. But I mean, I was a member of the Libertarian Party for a little while before I joined the Green Party. They had a ton of caucuses. Libertarian Socialist one, thank God.
Oh wow!
A little voice of reason within all that nonsense. So yeah, exactly. Which is what originally libertarianism was, by the way. We'll talk about that another time. Is that before David Nolan in the early 70s, who started the Libertarian American Party? To be libertarian meant to be libertarian socialist. That's what I meant. And they hijacked the name and changed it, which is complete nonsense. They had no right to do that. It's ridiculous. Anyway. Libertarianism and capitalism are literally contradictory concepts.
Yeah.
They think it's the same thing. Anyway, so okay, there I'm done with that. Caucuses in the Green Party. Go ahead.
So, per our bylaws in the Green Party of the United States, our caucuses is what's called like identity caucuses. So we have Lavender Caucus, which is our LGBTQ plus caucus. We have the National Black Caucus.
Oh, good.
Name self-explanatory.
Right.
We have the Latinx Caucus.
Very cool.
Again, self-explanatory.
Yes.
And we have the Women's Caucus, National Women's Caucus.
All right.
And then we also have Young Eco-Socialists, as I just mentioned earlier. So we have
So that counts as a caucus. Okay, I got you.
Right. So those are the 5 caucuses that we have.
Would it be caucuses? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm being a goof.
Oh, that's a good point.
Caucasi?
Or caucusi? Yes. I would argue it's caucusi, but that's just
okay. So the homework for after the show. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, that's encouraging to know. Yeah, because it is, political party is going to be like they're going to have a central core of beliefs. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I've never heard a mission statement from the Democrats or Republicans, but excuse me. But you're going to have like nuances of identity, like you said, that have a good right to gather together and kind of emphasize their part in the grand scheme of things. David Wilcox says hello. Hey, David Wilcox.
Oh, David. Hey.
He just says hi, no questions. But so that's very cool. I want to get people from each of those caucuses on here. You right now can tell us about the Lavender Caucus.
Yes, our Lavender Caucus. I'm not going to tell you what year because our caucus has been around for a long time. I want to say I know the last 20 years.
Well, the Green Party hasn't even been around that. I mean, what do you mean by officially the Green Party starting in this country?
That's a whole other can of worms.
Oh, right, exactly. I mean, you can go back to the 70s. I mean, but it's really more like 23 or 24 years ago. But anyway, go ahead.
So our Lavender Caucus, I believe, is one of the founding caucuses as soon as GPUS became GPUS. What we know now is GPUS. And as Lavender Caucus suggests, it is our LGBTQ plus caucus, so it is our caucus for anyone who identifies themselves as part of the LGBTQ plus community, and we would like to think of ourselves as like the only queer and trans caucus in the political party that actually does stuff, unlike the Stonewall Democrats and the Democratic Party and the Log Cabin Republicans, who quite honestly haven't done anything. I was in a Stonewall Democrats. I don't remember them doing anything.
Okay, well, there's that.
And so those two are just there to function as a way to get their voices heard, which I understand. But with the Lavender Caucus, like we're actually fighting and defending our right to survive. And how do we do that? Sometimes we'll do it by media, by putting statements out and maybe press conferences, through doing stuff at our respective state parties, and hopefully defend legislation and fight against legislation that's coming forward, like the one in Florida we try to fight off of, don't say gay bill that just got passed in Florida. We try to fend that off and everything, or something. What I realized today, it was 13 years ago when we fought in Iowa to get marriage equality rights and everything. So like, those are things that like we've done,
Right.
What have Democrats or Republicans have done?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't. You very, very rarely, for as frequently as I hear about the Log Cabin Republicans, I hear less frequently. Less frequently from the Stonewalls.
Right. Right.
So I don't know what they do, or if they do anything. I have no clue.
Well, that's the thing, and I know this is fiction, but still, hear me out.
No.
My favorite scene of The West Wing is when Josh Lyman talks to
Of what show?
The West Wing.
Oh, I love that show.
Exactly.
I just brought that show up earlier today. Ooh.
And so when Josh Lyman talks to a Republican congressman, I think in Florida, but it was a Republican congressman nonetheless, talking about this LGBT bill that was coming forward. I forgot what the bill was, but it was pretty much, fighting against the LGBT community. And this congressman was fighting it. And Josh Lyman looks to him, he goes, "You're in the log cabin Republicans."
Oh, right. I do remember that.
And he goes, "I know, but I also know it's my party." So again, I know I'm talking about fiction, but there's a little bit of reality to that. I know.
Right. The guy's like, he didn't think Americans were ready for it or something like that. I remember.
Right. Exactly.
And he's like, "You're gay. What are you doing?"
Exactly.
And I remember it made me very angry that if it had all represented gay Republicans, I don't like this nannying, like you telling 325 million people they're not ready for something. Who are you to tell me that? That's ridiculous.
Right. But I know in Illinois, in Iowa, in Wisconsin now, I think about it. I know like state legislators on Republican and Democratic Party side have fought against their own community when it comes to legislation. I'm not talking about like don't say gay bill or marriage equality. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about living wage. I'm talking about housing justice. I'm talking about education, things that we also need, that they have fought hard against.
Yeah.
We're talking about Democrats. The current president included, who was a senator, fought don't ask, don't tell. Biden fought for don't ask, don't tell.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, no,
And-
yeah.
and so
He was a part of the police thing in the 90s too, and that sent 8 bajillion more police out that caused all sorts of problems. Clinton actually said it was a mistake, and I haven't heard Biden say that.
Right.
No,
Right.
for sure.
So yeah, I mean, so the current president, who was a senator, fought against us,
Right.
and even queer legislators now are still doing the same thing. Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin's doing that. Christina Sinema, who has come out and identified as being bisexual in Arizona, she's fought against things,
Yeah, what's her problem? She used to be in the Green Party.
So I've been told. I don't know this for sure.
Oh, okay. I've merely heard that as well, I guess.
I've heard
so
because by the time that someone told me the same thing, and the timeline would have been she would have been in there when I've been in the party, and I don't remember her. And I know like the Arizona Greens, and I just don't remember her name.
Oh, okay. I'll add that to my list of things to do after the show.
So
we're a little behind on David Wilcox. It's a little hard to pin down. I'm assuming that means when the Green Party started. I never hear from them either. Honestly, I don't know who he's speaking about there. That was a few minutes ago. David, I apologize. Fiction not too far flung from reality. Exactly. Talking about the West Wing. And then this most recent one is Weird. I'm assuming he's talking about the Arizona person.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So more my point is, our caucus, Lamar Caucus, we're actually fighting for our own community, unlike Stonewall Democrats and Log Cabin Republicans and everything. Because, as I said in our caucus a year ago when I was co-chair with them, is that, because we are that political home for our community, means that we have to do more work in our state parties, because we have state parties that we are fighting with internally for even thinking about trans issues and LGBT issues, lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual issues, two-spirit issues. We're still fighting those things in our own state parties.
Yeah, no, I'm certain. We only have like a few seconds left here. That was extremely fast. That's crazy. So and there's so much more to discuss.
Yeah.
it's really it really is heartbreaking to watch people, challenge and go against the LGBTQ community, especially with the progress that was made in different areas, like the Supreme Court a few years ago legalizing same-sex marriage and that kind of thing. And this is the libertarian part of me in the sense of individual liberty and anti-authority. So it really annoys me that we have to sit around and wait for these people to make decisions about how we can live our lives. I don't like that. What do you mean I can't be gay, or I can't show it in public, or I can't talk about it? I can't swear. I'm not supposed to swear on the show, but you know what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So GFY, I guess, is the proper acronym. It's just ridiculous. And they're just trying to impose their own personal religious beliefs, because that's where all this LGBT stuff comes from. As far as I'm concerned, culturally at least, is just from just religion and just antiquated moral systems. Then they're trying to impose it on everybody through the law. And it's one of those things that there's no LGBTQIA plus person out there that's trying to make a heterosexual other than a heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trying to impose their lifestyle on anybody.
Right.
But the legislators here that are fighting against it are in fact trying to impose their lifestyle on other people. And then they claim, liberty and freedom and justice for all. Yeah, give me a break.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right. Well, sorry. Well, we're actually, that is so crazy how fast that went.
I know.
I just looked at the clock and it was like we had like a half an hour left or 20 minutes or something. Anyway, AJ Reed, thanks for coming on. Stick around till after the show. We're gonna have to set up another time because there's a bajillion more things we need. We were just getting going, man.
Oh, for sure.
David Wilcox, live and let live. Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. It's not rocket science. If you don't want to be LGBTQ, then don't. If you don't want to marry somebody of the same sex, then don't. Okay. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. Good Lord. Anyway. Okay. Everybody, thanks for tuning into the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. Till next time, be good, be green. See ya.